Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak. Um, so we had a final episode of The Mandalorian this season, this past week, and I wanted to talk about it. I figured I wanted to do it like right away, but I know that a lot of people wait for the weekend to watch it. So this is sort of my mentality. It comes out on Wednesday. So I figure by the time I record these on Sunday or Saturday, then you guys have hopefully watched it or hopefully not listened to anything to give you any spoilers before you get a chance to watch it. But now we're at the point where enough of you have watched it so I can talk about it because I want to talk about it. We get a huge battle on Mandalore. Basically, all the Mandalorians have decided, they have seen the base, they know what's going on. Axe Hawks escapes through the little portal. And last week I said I believed that on this episode, Bo Katan Kreese was going to pass away, that somebody major was going to die. And it turns out I was wrong. It wasn't Bo Katan. It was, I mean, weirdly enough, it's probably Moff Gideon, although he's wearing all this super armor stuff that I don't know is going to somehow keep him alive or what turn him more mechanical or whatever. Um, so again, it goes back to the previous episode of who is the spy. We thought it might be the armor. A lot of people were like, "Oh, definitely the armor because of the horns on her helmet. She looks like a Mandalorian, one of the Mandalorians who followed Darth Maul after the conquest of Mandalore and taking of the dark saber." But it's not the armor either, not according to her actions. If anything else, we get to see the armor be a total badass and leap from the ship on towards the ground, um, with no weapons other than her armor smithing tools, her hammer and pinchers, and in full descent of using the thruster on her back, coming straight at other Beskar wearing stormtrooper Mandalorian people. Had a full out battle in the sky. It was really epic. My brother and I, we are both big Star Wars fans. He's probably a fan because I am, being the older brother and all that. I have a little influence on him. I hope it's a good influence. But anyway, so we discussed the fact that, watching the Clone Wars cartoon and the Rebels cartoon on Disney Plus now without commercials has been great to see these characters have an arch and have a story that surpasses their physical ability to do things in live action. Well, this final episode of Mandalorian this season has a full live action battle with Mandalorians and with Beskar wearing troopers, super troopers, if you want to call them that. Um, and it's great. It's beautiful. Everything looks like it's supposed to. Everything looks coordinated, and it's just impressive what they were able to pull off visually. I can't imagine how difficult it was to shoot it, how much of it is real and how much of it is CGI. It's really hard to tell. That means, visually they had done a fantastic job. Story wise, okay. I made a comment last week that I thought that in this episode, we last saw Din Djarin being carted away, and that, at some point Grogu's got to come to the rescue with the other Mandalorians, and they did after the passing of Paz Vizsla in a very heroic manner. You get them going after to try to save Din Djarin, but he frees himself with the aid of Grogu. Grogu comes around the corner wearing the big giant IG-12 suit. There's a huge battle, and they're able to get free. And he is without a weapon, but he contacts Bo-Katan and he says, "Listen, I'm going after Moff Gideon. This ends now." And he tells Grogu, gives him like a pep talk, and he says, "I need your help. We have to do this together." And sort of a, dad looking to his kid in a way, saying, "I need you to man up. This is going to be real. This is what we got to do." And so they go after Moff Gideon. And there's a very cool payback scene to episode one of Star Wars with the force field through the doors, much like where Qui-Gon and Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan character are chasing after Darth Maul, and they can only go through one set of barriers at a time to catch the next enemy. They do something similar here with Din Djarin doing this, and R5 opening up these different sections and letting him battle two of these Beskar wielding super troopers at a time, defeating them two at a time, just boosh, boosh, boosh. And it's got the same sound and the same look, and it's sort of a big homage, in my opinion, to episode one. But you get this great battle where he finally gets to Moff Gideon, and they have an intense battle between the two of them. And Grogu comes in and interjects himself into the battle, and suddenly it's a okay, we got some action going on from the kid to save the day. And in a lot of ways, him and Din Djarin and Grogu are working together to sort of defeat the bad guy. And in comes those Praetorian guards, the guys in the red, who are supposed to be like the best fighters in their galaxy. I mean, they're the top of the top when it comes to combat. And these three guys come in, they start wreaking havoc, and you get to see Grogu's IG-12 destroyed. He has to then get out and use the Force, which I felt like the Force is going to be a big part of his character arc in this episode, and it was. But basically, he had to work hand in hand with Din Djarin of moments of using the Force and moments of Din coming through and using his blasters, and then you get this huge surgence of Mandalorians coming into the facility there with right off the bat Bo-Katan wielding the dark saber, coming right after Moff Gideon. And Moff has his own Beskar spare spear. I'm having mush mouth this morning. Moff Gideon has his Beskar spear with some kind of proton charged electric thing on the end of it. And there's a great battle between them. And Din and Grogu have their hands full with the Praetorian guards, and the dark saber is crushed. Moff Gideon's suit, I believe it has power because you hear like pneumatic sound, and he crushes the dark saber in his hand. And a lot of people have put up memes and saying, "Well, I guess that's over now." But for sure that uh, Bo-Katan has proven herself by defeating him in combat. That the rest of the Mandalorians should have no problem following her, and that's probably true because they do defeat him with the help of the Big Three. I call it the Big Three. Some different people have called it Grogu and his Space Mommy and Space Daddy, which is sort of paying off to be that. But the three of them end up defeating the Praetorian Guards and Moff Gideon as Axe Wolf is basically getting his ship shot up, and he is single-handedly driving it towards this base to destroy it. It explodes, everything burns up, and you get the sense that Moff Gideon has passed away in this process. It's very cool. It's a very cool scene. Um, it's one of those scenes where I think this is the majority of your budget. This episode is probably 80% of your budget for this whole season. The special effects just keep getting more and more complex and more difficult to shoot, but they're able to pull it off, I guess, because technology is getting easier the more you do it. Um, it's sort of like LED light bulbs. Whenever LED light bulbs first came out, they were super expensive. But the more that people bought them, the more that everybody wanted to figure out how to make their version of one a little bit cheaper. And now you can buy LED light bulbs, almost just as cheap as regular light bulbs, sometimes cheaper. But it all depends on the technology and the availability of it and the ingenuity of the people. Well, the same thing with special effects. As they do these and as they advance every season with the stuff that they're making, they get to, um, in a way, take shortcuts and lean off of the technology that they've learned before and go, well, that worked in here. Let's use that in this scenario. So you're not reinventing the hamster wheel every time. You're just building upon what you already know, which is great. I think they did a great job. Um, there's lots of things that I enjoyed about this episode. I really enjoyed seeing Grogu use the Force to blockade the fire from the ship exploding, basically protecting him and Din Djarin and Bo-Katan. This plays back in Rebels, whenever Kanan deflected the giant explosion to save Ezra and Hera and his Rebels crew. Um, and it was shot beautifully. I mean, it made it look like he is unleashing his full force powers at this point. Um, and we've talked about the fact that Grogu lives to be 900 plus years old. So, at this stage in the show, he is about 60. So right now he is starting to get more and more powerful with the Force, and his ability to do this at this stage is basically him digging deep and using everything he's got. And you can tell that he's getting more comfortable doing this sort of stuff because after all of this exertion of the Force that he's used, he's not tired. Like he in past episodes, whenever he did something great, one big thing would wipe him out for like a day. But now he's able to wield the Force regularly and kind of do it at will, which is great. That means that possibly next season or intermingled with Ahsoka, we could see Grogu full Force using, interjecting, and helping, which is what we've all wanted. We've all wanted him to speak. We all want him to use the Force when he wants to. And a buddy of mine that I've had on here before, Josh Treadaway, he and I were texting a little bit about the final episode, and he said, "Man, it was really hard to see that dark saber destroyed." And I agree. As I have my own toy version of it sitting here on my wall. um, a lot of people have made a comment on social media that now that it's destroyed and the Mandalorians have control of Mandalore again, they've lit the Great Forge again, so the armor can start really making some weaponry and some armor back on their home planet and reestablish Mandalore. That they're going to be able to, with Bo-Katan's sort of guidance, possibly remake the dark saber for Grogu's hands. And I made a comment to Josh Treadaway. I said it may be destroyed in a way that they may be able to make two small ones, sort of Ahsoka style, where she's got dual wielding sabers. Maybe they'll make two tiny dark sabers that fits Grogu's hands. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. The more I talk about it, the more I think that's a terrible idea because in order for them to intermingle the Mandalorian and Jedi idea into Grogu, the more you have to have his other hand free for a blaster or, the flamethrower ability and something like that, or the darts. I really thought they were going to pay off the darts thing more with this episode, but they didn't. Um, it is kind of cute to see people on TikTok who are into the cosplay stuff who have made the the dart thing for Grogu's wrist, and they've applied it to their own little Grogu doll, which is cool. I think the creativity of the show is really incredible. I think that the following of it is even more incredible. But I'm really happy that all this stuff is coming up to entertain us. I mean, it's all entertainment, right? We all want something to sort of distract us from the day to day stuff in life, to give us hope, to give us ideas, to give us belief that something better can happen. Um, there was a meme that came out this past week and it showed episode after episode of different movies and TV shows having to do with Star Wars and the fact that the underlying current of all of it is hope. And I made a comment that that was probably the biggest reason that I like the show and I like the franchise and I like the storyline. It is the underlying current of hope. Hope that things will be better. Hope that you can make a change. Hope that you can impact the future for maybe not your life, but someone else's life. Hope that what you do here matters in the long run. And I think they've done a great job of it. I mean, I'm a fan, um, obviously, but what do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you think that hope is the thing that brings you back, or is it the special effects, or is it the storyline, or is it the characters? What is the thing that brings you back? Um, yeah. What do you think? So, what did I miss? Is there anything else I missed? Oh, the little dudes on Navarro rebuilt IG-11. They had a great payoff scene towards the end where Grogu and um, Din Djarin pull up at the little cantina on the beach side there, the same place where we saw um, what's his name? Am I drawing a blank? Jeez, I tell you, mine like a steel trap, rusty and illegal in 37 states. What the hell is his name? I got it written down somewhere. I just got to find what I was talking about. Zeb. Yeah, the cantina where they saw Zeb. See, this is live action. This is real. This isn't this isn't no highfalutin, overly produced show. This is me basically trying to figure this crap out as I go along, just like you are. Okay, just like real life. I'm just a guy in a spare bedroom, trying to trying to have a train of thought to entertain you guys and hopefully give you something cool to watch and talk about and share with. But yeah, so they go in the same cantina that Zeb was in, and you get a great image of um, Dave Filoni's character in the background wearing his famous hat, and he's got a little bit of a beard going on, and Grogu speaks, sort of. He says some garbled gook stuff, whatever the hell he's saying. I don't even know what he's saying. And he points to up above where the bar is. There's an IG-11 head, and that was the one thing that the little guys that were repairing him back on Navarro were saying they couldn't repair him because they needed a new head, um, because of the circuitry and stuff. And so Den makes an agreement with the guy that we've seen from the New Republic, the guy flying the X-wing fighter that came and got his attention about the fact that Grief Karga needed help. They make a deal with him on, hey, I need work and you need things done that are outside of the New Republic's reach. And so, how about you just hire me exclusively as your bounty hunter, and I'll work for you on things that the Empire or the New Republic could not care about. And in return, all I really want is that head right there. Can you give me that head? So they give him the head. They're able to take the head back to Navarro. Now IG-11 is going to be the marshal on Navarro, which is great. Um, we got to see the positive turn that IG-11 had in the early season. In the early season, so I think it's the first season. I think it was the first season. Yeah, it was the first season. Um, so now he's going to be a character that we're going to see again, which is great. It's awesome. I think David Tennant does the voice of him, which is pretty cool. We're going to get to hear more and more about David Tennant as we go. Uh, in the animated show, he voiced a clone, or not a clone. He voiced a droid that was a sabersmith who basically had a catalog of all of the lightsabers ever made, and how they were built and all the schematics and all of the knowledge. He's sort of the knowledge keeper. So anyway, we're going to see more of David Tennant. Just be prepared. So yeah, after all is said and done and the dust is cleared, you have Bo-Katan, Kreese, and the armor both relighting the forge on Mandalore, and all of the people there rallying behind them. You've combined the factions of the helmet wearers all the time and the ones who take their helmets off through the guidance of the armor and the leadership of Bo Katan. I think that you're going to see, if they do more of these, which, I mean, the way they ended this could be the last one they do. But if they do more of these, you're going to see a group of Mandalorians group grow because of their ability to bring everybody back together. We still have a small payoff with the mythosaur under the water where Grogu is communicating with him. He went to the edge of the water. He closed his eyes, he used the force, and you get to see a deep dive with the camera going down to where the mythosaur is and it opening its eyes. Now, what does that mean? That means we're probably going to see him in next season. There's going to be a big payoff with that. But also, I can't help but think that in the later movies, we don't see Mandalorians. So either they're going to just live out their life in the Outer Rim, or they just have nothing to do with the Skywalker story, and they just happen to not be in anything we see. So be on the lookout for that. Um, if you have time, this is a good time to go back and start watching some of the animated Clone War stuff. If you don't want to watch all of it, I fully understand. Just watch the last season. You'll get caught up on a lot of things, and it may interest you to go back and check out other episodes. I tell everybody if they watch the Clone Wars animated series, every episode is about 20-ish minutes long because they made it for regular TV with a whole bunch of commercials. And if you get an episode where it seems to be they're underwater, you can skip the episode. Nothing happens. I mean, really, every single episode that they did underwater is immaterial. Unless you just want to see the characters and see what the storyline goes. None of it has any impact on the overall story. None of those characters have any impact on the overall story. None of them ever come back later. I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of that now with the reintroduction of some of these beings on the Mandalorian series, the fish people and the ones with the hammerhead shark look to their face. But they're not really major characters. If anything, it's just sort of a hey, we've got to make an episode and let's fill it with this crap. So again, you can breeze through these with no problem. Again, it's not a huge commitment, so it's like 20 something minutes long each episode. You get to see a younger Yoda being a full force user. You get to see a younger Chewbacca. You get to see a full interaction with Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan being kind of like brothers in a way. I mean, Obi-Wan's supposed to be leading us Anakin, but he realizes at a certain point that Anakin is a better Force user. He's more in tune with the Force and is stronger in a lot of ways. But Obi-Wan is supposed to be his master. He's supposed to be his trainer. And there's a lot of interaction with them where you get to see why the later stuff matters so much, why it's so heartbreaking, why Order 66 is so heartbreaking whenever the Emperor says it, because the clones were fighting for the good guys, for the Republic, for all of the Jedi. They were just following orders and trying to do the right thing as they were programmed and built to do, grown to do. And when they suddenly turn and you get an emotional connection with these guys in a way. There's episodes where you get to learn about the special clone. They called him 99. He was a genetic mutation where he just didn't come out right. He's got a lot of things wrong with him, and he really wanted to be a hero, but he can't fit the suit and he can't stand upright, and he's sort of been curtailed to doing janitor duty. But he's the one who starts recognizing the difference in a lot of the guys and gives them names. Because up to that point in the story, they just went by their serial number because they were grown. They were grown to be troopers. But he gave them names, and when they gave them names, they started having personalities, and then you started caring about them. And he's the reason that the Bad Batch is called uh, Troop 99. They named themselves after him because they were all genetic mutations, and they use those mutations to be stronger together. So there's a lot to it. You don't have to swallow it all at one time. You can take nibbles here and there. Just watch an episode here and there. You're going to find yourself wanting to watch more and more if you get into it, though. You get to see the change in Dooku. You get to see how the Force is being wielded by the Sith, and how the Emperor is using the Force, because you know he's going to turn into the Emperor. But you get to see him slowly wiggle his way in and have manipulations over them, and slowly morph their mentality. He basically changes the role of the Jedi from being protectors um, of everyone to being military leaders. And then that process sort of loses their way. And this is a big thing that Dooku talked about. So anyway, I've talked enough about Star Wars for now. Just go check it out. You got a lot of time. There's no rush. There's a lot of content out there. Small doses. But I will tell you the last season is probably the best season. If you just want to watch a little bit as a taste, watch the last 4 episodes. The last 4 episodes have to do with Maul and Ahsoka, and Order 66 gets carried out. The stormtroopers or the clone troopers turn on them, and Ahsoka has to figure out a way to survive. Uh, it's pretty impactful. It starts happening on Mandalore. You get to see why the Mandalorians turn. It's pretty amazing. It's probably their best writing. And then once you finish those, or if you get into the 4 episodes and you're like, so what's this Rebels about? Just start watching the first episode. It's all great, all of it. Um, the minute you think, oh, okay, this is kind of predictable, it's not. The next thing happens. It's like, holy cow, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, it's great. It's great. So, um, all right, that's enough talking about Mandalorian. I did 27 minutes on the Mandalorian. I know you guys are sick of this, but I'm not. So let's talk about the next thing. Um, I watched a show called The Consultant. It's on Amazon Prime. It stars Christoph Waltz. He's won lots of awards playing good guys and bad guys. He's a very good actor. Um, my buddy Greg had watched this show and he was like, "Listen, I highly recommend you checking out The Consultant." And I was like, "Okay." And he said it in a way that he's like, "Listen, I know you'll like this because it's really messed up and but it's really great." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I've put it off. I've put it off and I put it off and I put it off and I put it off. And I was like, this weekend, my wife went out of town and I was supposed to go camping with a friend, but it turned rainy. So I backed out and I had some time to kill. And I was like, well, what am I going to watch? I need something new. And I was like, oh, yeah, Greg talked to me about that show, The Consultant. The first episode, I watched the first episode and I had to turn it off and walk out of the room and walk around the house and go outside. And it is it is bizarre. Um, Christoph Waltz is a character who he has the ability to make you feel uncomfortable just with his silence. Um, every episode had me more and more confused about what was going on. Uh, I, it's just impressive. It, I don't even know how to describe it, but basically, he's the devil. Yeah, yeah. It comes in a corporate world, take over a tech company that makes video games for phones, and things escalate so quickly that you're like, who is this guy? They do some research, try to find him. They can't find any footprint of who he is, and yet somehow he's now running their company. Um, you think that he's committing murders, and you can't figure out how he's getting away with it, or if he is doing it. I mean, there's a lot of question marks of is this real or is this imagined? Um, the show is shot great. There's great actors and actresses in this, very impressive performances, and the visual effects don't need to be very crazy because the story is so powerful. And Christoph Waltz just owns this role. I mean, he is so evil in a lot of ways in this role, and he's believable because he's that kind of actor. Um, so yeah, if you're in between shows and you're like, I need something that's gonna make me feel uncomfortable about everything in life, this is your show. I've I've looked online to see if they're gonna do a season two, and it says that if they do, it'll start. It should be out by like spring of 2024. And I'm like, what do you mean if they do? But yeah, it's probably like everything else. If enough people watch, they'll make more. But if not, then they go, yeah, that was fun. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Um, Thank you to everybody who listens. Thank you everybody who's watching on YouTube. I appreciate it. If you have some input about the things I've talked about, or if you want to be part of this conversation and steer it towards things you want to talk about, then let me know. We can have a podcast together. Um, yeah. So please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share this with your friends, and as always, cue the cow.
Cue the cow. Moo, baby.